Shalom, this is Rabbi Yitzchak Levi unveiling Torah truth on a weekly basis. Thank you for joining us, and I believe we can sharpen each other by studying the Torah. This Torah portion is called Balak, and it is the name of a very evil king. So I want to show you a little comparison between Balaam and Abraham. Whoever has three particular traits is counted among the students of Abraham, and whoever has three other traits is among the students of Balaam. He who has a good eye, humility and contentedness, is a student of Abraham, while he who has an evil eye, arrogance and greed, is the student of Balaam. This is the words of our sages. In this week's parasha, the Jewish people passed through the territory of Moab. We remember the story of Moab. There was Lot. He had two daughters. They escaped the fire, and the father impregnated them with the pretense that he was drunk. I'm not claiming that he knew, but just the same, he must have been awfully knocked out with the wine not to know what he's doing. By the same token, the children that came out from these two daughters, one of them was Moab, from the father. That's a picture of today's Jordan. Balak, the king of Moab, wants to wage war against the Jewish people, but realizes that attacking them physically is to no avail, because the reputation was ahead of them. They already heard about other kings, how they have been subdued by this nation of slaves. Jewish survival is governed by spiritual laws, and thus the only method to defeat them is with spiritual powers. So King Balak hires the greatest spiritual master of a non-Jewish clan and the most famous in the world at that day, a man named Balaam. And what is he hired to do? To wage metaphysical warfare against the Jewish people who live and claim that they serve the one unseen God of the universe. Who was Balaam? And what distinguishes him from any man like Abraham, who used his powers for the betterment of mankind? The Talmud identifies these three traits, and so we need to look at them. We'll start with the good eye versus an evil eye. Remember, the Torah talks about the good eye as being generous, and the evil eye as being stingy. I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, people who have reasons and come up with reasons why they should not give tithe to support the Levites as the Torah commands. And so, but the other people who do, according to Malachi, are very generous, and they're rejoicing and they're happy when they give, because they're able to give because God has blessed them. So, back to the evil eye and the good eye. Someone who has a good eye will sincerely celebrate the success of others, while someone with an evil eye begrudges the success of others. Do you know any people like that? Who are so evil eye that when they hear about a brother or sister succeeding in something, profiting more than the norm, oh, they're jealousy. And in their mind, in their heart, they wish that that person will lose or not be successful. That's evil eye. Bereshit, Genesis 18:2. Abraham rushes to care for the three nomadic strangers as part of his constant striving to bring others closer to God. Contrast this with Balaam, a hitman hired to generate bad spiritual vibes against these Hebrew people who just came out of slavery. Balaam could have just as easily pursued victory by blessing Moab. Instead, he chooses the low road of cursing the Jews, or intend to curse the Jews. You can discover whether people have a good eye or an evil eye by seeing their reaction to another's good fortune or good news. For example, if you drive up in your shiny new car, will others dance around with a chorus of Mazal Tov? Mazal Tov, I'm not too crazy about this word, but in Judaism they use it as a good luck. I don't believe in good luck, but I do believe in God. But will they actually dance or celebrate with the Mazal Tov, or will they sneer and simmer and curtly blurt, "That's nice, that's nice," but in their heart they're thinking, "Why not me? Why did she get it and why did he get it? Why didn't I?" Here in Israel, I have my own method of determination. However, one of the rabbinic students becomes engaged. There is an elaborate announcement and celebration. Of course, it's easy for a married student to celebrate another's engagement, but I always pay close attention to the single students who are eager to get married themselves, how they react to another's engagement, to another's marriage. That will determine what kind of an eye they have. Is it a good eye or an evil eye? It is a good idea to be careful about boasting of our own success. Many times, unless a deal is closed and I get the money, it's already in the bank, I even shy of even sharing this with my friends, just because of that reason, and because I don't really know what the outcome can be. Even though the contract was signed, I still do not know. There's always a possibility of something going wrong. So we need to be careful, whether it be wealth or children or good fortune of any kind, because the sad reality is that many people are jealous, evil eye. And in order to feel better, they will secretly wish for you to lose, to fail what you have succeeded. Which is not to say that we should be paranoid or reclusive, but it does make sense to be somewhat modest and discreet, and to be selective with whom we share personal information. Flaunting oneself simply invites the possibility of jealousy and the evil eye. Now, what I would recommend, instead of boasting about our earthly success, we should boast about being close to God, cause others to be jealous, to cause jealous with others about your success in intimacy with God. That would be a good idea. The next one is humility versus arrogance. Which category do you fall in? I know so many people who are extremely arrogant, but they think in their mind that they are very humble. So it does matter how people view you. The next trait that distinguishes Abraham's from Bilham's students is humility versus arrogance. As we discussed in Parashat Bamidbar, the definition of humility is to know one's place in relation to others, particularly those with God. We have to understand that God is not a man, and we have to fear Him, and we have to respect Him and honor Him. Abraham personified humility because his mission in life was to teach that all power derives directly from God. He is the generator of all power. Balaam, meanwhile, went ahead and cursed the Jews, even though God clearly objected from Numbers 22:12. Excuse me. He saw God as a deity to be avoided altogether. This relates to our own observance. When we encounter a mitzvah, whether it be giving charity, cleaning our homes for the Passover, or attending a synagogue, do we view it as an obligation to get rid of, or as an opportunity to embrace? How do we view those things? I hear many people complain, oh, it's Passover again. Oh, I have to paint my house or clean the cabinets and the drawers. Do we see this as an opportunity? That as we clean our homes, we really are cleaning ourselves. The physical act of our busyness, of our hands, is a lesson for us to clean our home, our temples. The next one is content versus greed. Are we content with what God has given us? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those rabbis or teachers who teach that poverty is good. Not at all. I believe God wants us to excel and to succeed, and God wants us to be the head and not the tail. But we should not complain. We should do our part, work hard, make big goals, but be satisfied with what God has given you and stop complaining. So this third trait is contentedness versus greed. When Abraham journeyed to the land of Israel, a metaphor for spiritual journey, he was willing to reject luxuries in exchange for a life of principles. Remember, in his father's house, no doubt, it was a stone house. And now he is a nomad living in tents. He was even willing to be thrown into a fiery furnace rather than forsake his moral integrity. Balaam, on the other hand, was driven solely by the pursuit of money, wealth, riches, mammon in Hebrew. In fact, the Midrash even credits him with originating the concept of casinos. I don't know where they got that from, but this is what the rabbis believe, that he was the origin of casinos and prostitution homes. He was a free agent, a mercenary, a hired gun with no conscience. The very name Balaam is a contraction of the words Beloam, which means without a nation. He was all alone. His loyalty was dictated by whoever offered the most money, the most reward. And he would do anything for money. Particularly and practically, it is often difficult to discern someone's true intentions. Are they motivated to help mankind, or are they self-serving and destructive? How do we discern? The answer is found in our original source, which distinguishes between the students of Abraham and the students of Balaam. Why mention the students? Why not simply distinguish between Abraham and Balaam themselves? The answer is that the truest expression of a person's character is through the students they produce. You see, when you light a candle, you don't only light it for yourself, but you light the candle for all who are in the dark room. Your character should influence others. God forbid that we should be the role model for others. Only God should be our model. But we can bestow upon our students the character of God. That is why Judaism says that when choosing a rabbi, character is more important than scholarship. Because if that person did it for the wrong, his motivation was for the wrong reason. He did it, he wanted to be a rabbi or a preacher or a teacher with the wrong motive. He does it for the mammon, for the money, versus the one who's got the character to be a true teacher. Yeah, many times there's not much money in the business of rabbis. But if you do it for the money, you should not be the rabbi. It is like having the best tools, but no proof of any product. You have not produced anything. You've never built a bridge or a house. You've never done anything with those tools. How am I supposed to know that you have good tools versus bad tools? Where is the proof? Where is the work of your hands? You can be talented and wise, but still end up like Balaam if you don't work to develop good character. You have become like Balaam. Now I want to talk about the saddling the donkey. There is yet one more example of the difference between Abraham and Balaam. The Torah reports that each of them arose early in the morning. What a beautiful start. Both men are prophets in their own way. Both are distinguished among their peers. And both of them are early risers. That's a good start. What do they do when they get up early in the morning? They saddle their donkeys. In Genesis 22 verse 3, we found about Abraham saddling his donkey. In Numbers 22:21, we found Balaam saddling his. In Hebrew, the word for saddle is yichvosh, but also in Hebrew it means the same spelling, will conquer. And the word for donkey is chamor. Chamor. We know Hamor was the one who raped Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov. Hamor matches the word for physicality, which is chemar or chomer, same spelling as Hamor, which means raw material. The interpretation is as follows. When Abraham saddled his donkey, he conquered his physical drives in serving God. Thus, when Abraham went to receive prophecy at Mount Moriah, he leaves the donkey and the two witnesses behind based on Genesis Bereshit 22 verse 5. As if to say, I am leaving my transportation, my material goods, and all those who have been my companions in this 3-day journey, and those who have helped me to this point. But now it is up to me to go up to the mountain by myself, because God is waiting for me at the top of the mountain. Many times we feel like we just can't do things by ourselves. Many times we see preachers always having their wives there to help them to minister. But there's times when we must go to the desert alone, as Yeshua has. as Moshe was for 40 years. This is like Moshe, who went part of the way on top of Sinai. Part of the way, Aaron went with him, his brother. But when he got to a certain point, he told his brother, you stay here. I must finish this journey by myself. No one can go with me. This is the lesson for all of us. There is part of the journey we make with our parents when they sustain us and they provide for us. Then there is part of the journey that we must be trusting our teachers, our rabbis. But then, at some point, God expects us to finish the journey all by ourselves. If you think for a second that in the day of judgment before Yeshua, the judge of the world, you're going to be able to bring the Apostle Paul there to testify for you, if you think you're going to bring Moses or Elijah with you, you can forget it. You're going to stand all alone before the judge of the world to give an account for all your deeds and for every word that uttered out of your mouth. So, when we contrast this with Balaam, who arose early in order to skim the downfall of others, in this case of a whole nation, in the pursuit of wealth and glory. In Balaam's case, it is the donkey itself who gets the prophecy, and not this famous prophet, based on Numbers 22, verse 25. Proving itself on a higher level than Balaam himself. Yes, a donkey speaks. A donkey sees the angel, but Balaam couldn't. No wonder God predicts Balaam's demise with the words, their forefather Abraham has already preceded you because he gave his heart to me. Poetic justice. It is encouraging to note that in the final analysis, everything works out for the good. Numbers 24, verse 5. As Balaam attempted to curse the Jewish people, the Jewish nation, what emerges out of his mouth is a beautiful blessing that will follow Israel to the very last days in this world, and it will complete its prophecy at Yeshua's return. Listen, how goodly are your tents, O Yaakov, Jacob, your dwelling places, Israel. These are the first words that the Jew utters each morning when entering the synagogue to pray. For 3,000 years, Jews have used Balaam's prophecy to strengthen their commitment to God. We live in a time where there is no more privacy. Everything is open and exposed. We spend more time and money spying on our neighbors, gossiping and unveiling information on others, that we forget to look at ourselves and our shortcomings. Yes, we need to look at self, because we too have baggage. We have baggage. This leads us to spend more time on others and no time to search the scriptures, for in them we find eternal life. It is time for those of us who claim to be believers to take our eyes off our neighbors and start looking at what is God's will for us, our family, and our loved ones. Only then can we make progress in our relationships with God and with man. Balak was more concerned about this peaceful nation than with his evil eye, the greed. Israel did not ask for any land, and made no threats to occupy or take any of their possessions. All they ask for is a free passage to their promised land. The disciples of Abraham have good eye. They're generous, meek spirit, and humble soul. The disciples of Balaam have an evil eye, stingy, self-centered, haughty spirit, and arrogant soul. Balaam is a prophet for hire. He is known as Balaam the evil one. He was hired to prevent Israel to enter the land. And even if they did, they would be so weak and feeble they would never amount to anything. Numbers 22:18. I cannot go beyond the word of the Lord my God to do anything small or great. That was his words to Balak. I cannot speak whatever I want to, even though I want to curse them. But God is more powerful than me. Considering these words, one has to ask, why are the sages so hard on this prophet? In the records we find he has been honest with his client Balak. And he does do exactly as God commands him. In addition, he does call God his God. So you see, even the devil can take a form of a bright and shiny angel. Even the devil can speak as God, and he can roar like a lion, but that does not make him God. Balak found the power of Moshe to be in his mouth, so he thought to fight Israel by the power of his mouth by bringing a prophet of his own, just like Korah. As I come to the conclusion, we need to remember Acts 6:5. The Nicolaitans were a heretical sect who followed the teachings of Nicholas, whose name means one who conquers the people, who was possibly one of the deacons of the early start of the Messianic movement. And so, we have to be careful not to fall in this group of the Nicholas or the Balak Balaam. May God help us to understand His Word and He strengthen us. And until next time, Shalom, Shalom.